Tom Brennan.
Alright, we'll,
That's a wall.
have to bring this meeting of the Madison Select Board to order at 6:30 PM on Thursday, May 13th, 2025. Please join me in saluting the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrants number 30, 4, 29, 25, the library. Number 31, 4, 29, 2025. Payroll register number 18, 5, 1, 2025. And number 19, 5, 8, 2025. Looking for a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the AP warrants and payroll registers as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the payroll registers and AP warrants as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. Acceptance of the minutes of the select board meeting on April 28, 2025.
Move to accept the minutes on April 28, 2025 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the select board meeting minutes for April 28, 2025. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Under E, public hearings on ordinances, letter number 3, we can cross off. We did that at the last meeting. What is that thing? Number 1, I'll open a public hearing for the mobile vendor ordinance. Town manager, do you want to go over that?
Yes.
Public hearing is open.
The planning board, at my request, reviewed some ideas about creating a mobile vendor ordinance. We have several vendors that have popped up in town that are, coffee vans or food vendors and things like that. And so I asked if there was any ordinances or any, safeguards that we could use to track and license or, keep them within code. And there wasn't, so the planning board drafted a mobile vendor ordinance, and they accepted it in March 21st, I think is what I've got for a date. And so now it's coming before the select board in the public hearing to see if there's anybody that has any questions in the public, anybody that wants to speak to it, or if the planning board can answer any of the questions as they went through preparing this document.
All right, any public comment? Anybody have any comments? Yes.
I have a lot of questions. I'm actually
Alright.
asking on behalf of a mobile vendor who couldn't make it tonight because they have an event.
All right, sweet.
So bear with me because there's a lot of questions. So the first one, has everybody read this? Has all the select board read this and understand it and everybody know what's in it? Yes, no?
Yeah.
All right, the first question has to do with section 250-2. The question is,
It's not.
why would it be the intention of the town to regulate privately hired mobile food vendors, say like if for a family reunion or something? Or is that the intention of this?
Planning board?
I don't think it'll be the intention of this board to do that.
Because that's kind of what 252 says. This includes both temporary and permanent vendors operating on public or private property, whether for profit or non-profit.
I think the intention for that is considering health and safety reasons and also citing to make sure that it doesn't impact generically with public safety and things like that. Also so that it will kind of regulate any noise, waste management, trash pickup, Again, health and safety, like making sure that they follow the mobile eating place law with the state of Maine, so that they're following all the health regulations as far as having everything they need for waste management within kind of their rig, so that they have all proper like trash disposal, solid waste disposal, things like that, of that nature.
Okay,
I think that's the overall applicability of the ordinance.
so we're talking about private land as opposed to my house and I hire a vendor for my family reunion to cook something. Or public or private land that's not town-owned. Those are two different things, like my house as opposed to the Cumberland Farms parking lot isn't, say, town-owned, but somebody owns
That's
it.
still private land, though.
Yeah, so what's the difference between a mobile vendor? It doesn't seem to differentiate between me having something at my house, which is really kind of overreaching and invasive, for it to be regulated when I hire a private person to be at my private residence, as opposed to somebody sitting in the Cumberland Farms parking lot selling junk food or whatever they do. It doesn't seem to separate that. Is it the town's intention? Because if this gets passed the way it's written, it's vague. Is it the town's intention to make my vendor that I hire be licensed and permitted to serve my family at my house for, say, a family reunion?
I think Dawn would like to say something from the planning board.
I'm on the planning board. Absolutely, that was not our intention. I think you raise a valid point. Our concern is, and we'd love for suggestions, and we had a public hearing as well when we wrote this.
I didn't know about this until the last meeting when I saw it on the table.
I understand,
So-
but we'd love that encouragement while we're drafting these things, because we don't think of every circumstance. And certainly a wedding caterer at my home for a wedding is not our intention to regulate that for a one-day event. Where we run into issues is, how do we distinguish between a home or a resident and a person that wants to set up, because a lot of these mobile vendors are set up on private land. And we need to we need to encompass it all, but the circumstance you raise of a family event and hiring a cater company, that was never brought into our logic, and so no, it was not our intent. I think you raise an absolutely valid point. I just don't know how to differentiate that, the language.
One thing I could suggest is if you look down to the definition of a mobile vendor, that's under definitions 250-3. It says this definition does not include, we could put in there vendors selling on private property for private events.
Yep.
Is that something that we would be amenable to? And I think that would very clearly state that as an exception.
You have to take that back to the planning board, though?
We
No.
could, the
You
select
guys
board,
can make any change you want.
the select board could say we will pass this with edits that we have approved tonight.
I think, does that make sense to people? I mean, Snooty?
This, the way I read it, and is that it locks everything in as far as if I wanted to have bouncy houses and water things in my house for a grandchild's birthday, but, you know, and they had food there, I mean, this would say,
No,
no.
no, I mean, it's very clear, I think, in the definition of a mobile vendor, that this is a permanently equipped with all necessary kitchen facilities, including hand washing stations, sinks, etc. And this is a self-contained, motorized, or towable food service establishment meeting the state of Maine's definition of a mobile food eating. And again, if you look at this definition, it does not include vendors selling at stationary tables, at fairs, farmers markets, or community events, individuals selling from personal vehicles that are not permanently modified as mobile kitchens, non-motorized food carts, bicycles, or hand-push vending stands.
Have we had a problem in the past, is that why we have this new ordinance?
That is not a question for me, I was just asked to draft it.
We were, as a planning board, we were asked by the town manager to address this issue.
Yeah.
I do not want to speak for Denise at all, but I think that there's some inequities between a permanently located restaurant establishment
Yeah,
and what I can open up on the side of a street.
yeah.
And they are not concurrent with the regulations that they have to face and the burdens, and that puts an unfair advantage in the business community.
I don't have any problem whatsoever as far as, you know, vendors along Main Street when there are events going on in town and things of that nature. I think it needs to be governed for safety because there's gonna be a lot of people around and stuff. I do have a little problem with private property, you know, I'm talking about homes and stuff like that. I think there needs to be something distinguished here between the two, instead of locking everything in hard here, because, you know, I'm afraid we're gonna get a lot of challenges out of this if it goes in this way.
Well, this is targeted more toward vendors, not toward the, what's the word I was looking for?
Cottage industry,
Yeah.
and they're specifically in here.
Caterers and it's not.
They're not working out of a food truck, out of a licensed state of Maine. food-
Mobile vendor.
Mobile truck, and they have to be inspected by the health department in the state of Maine.
Yes, I understand.
We're trying to put that on, and trust me, I don't want any more ordinances. This was not a planning board idea. We were asked to come up with this. So we looked at a bunch of them and we said, well, how can we mitigate this risk? And this is what we came up with, because we were asked to come up with something, so we did that.
I also think it's geared towards, what's at the end of Jones Street? There's a vendor there that set up last year on her private property. But it needs to be regulated because
And she is.
she's serving to the public,
Well, she's got a license, right?
Right.
From the state.
Oh,
but that she would fall under this ordinance as well.
Right, anybody would, the gentleman selling coffee at Cumberland Farms is under this ordinance, I would say, right? Well, that's not
Correct.
motorized though.
Yep.
And they're.
It's mobile, it's
It's
mobile,
They
it's not
tow
motor.
it, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so does that kind of answer your question, Lisa?
Yeah,
Does
just
that
the
make sense when you put
differentiation
that in?
between the private,
I think you're right.
my business, and
Yeah.
as opposed to something that's out on the main street.
Right, because all of them are on private property, it doesn't matter, I mean, there isn't very much on public property, so we have to differentiate between those two events.
I will put in, this definition does not include a bullet that says vendors who are operating at private events on private property.
Right.
As an exception.
And I think serving the public is the key to that.
Yeah.
You know, you have a wedding reception, you don't need to get regulated. But if you're serving to the public on a daily basis,
Right,
you need to meet some kind of health criteria and
Right.
regulation.
right.
Did you have other concerns?
Many. I'm asking for, I read this thing like 3 times in a quiet closet so I could actually get the wording and what its intention is. And a lot of these questions are from a friend of ours that they have a food truck and just are not sure it's what I guess.
Where did we come up with this? It must be some other town must do this.
There were a few other towns, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were pretty out of date. They were based off of lunch wagon laws. So a lot of this is actually based off of kind of a compilation of those, but mostly it's based off the mobile eating place guidelines from the state of Maine,
Okay, all right. Lisa,
which most of these food trucks do already follow.
Question 2, Lisa.
This is a yes or no. If the town asked a mobile vendor to come and set up during Madison Anson days, would they be exempt because the town asked?
If it was on town property.
Or
No?
because there's wording in here that indicates that maybe it is, but then further down, it says something about if you're fully enclosed, something like that. It's just kind of vague again.
There are, yes, there's a section for special event permits, so 250-12. The select board may issue temporary event permits for mobile vendors who do not meet the full requirements of this ordinance, but wish to operate at town-approved community events. These permits are valid only for the duration of the event, do not require a mobile vendor license, may include conditions to ensure compliance with health and safety regulations. So that would be up to the select board.
And the logic to that was if the Boy Scout troop wanted to sell popcorn, they aren't a mobile vendor. They're at this event, you know, or Girl Scout cookies, or something open to the public. That was the intent of that exclusion.
Okay, that's not really what I meant, I guess. If somebody was what is under the definition of a food truck or trailer, and the town specifically said, hey, come set up during Madison Anson days,
That would be permitted.
would they be
under that.
excluded? No,
And
do they have to get the permit?
They would have to either go to the select board or get the permit, yes.
Okay. All right, so section 250-3. Is this section saying that if somebody committed a crime within the last 5 years and served more than a year, this doesn't actually apply to me or the people that I'm asking for, but, it seems kind of like, if somebody committed a crime of, you know, they made a stupid mistake, served a year and a month within the last 5 years, people are kind of expected to say, well, you served your time, you're back on level ground. Is this excluding somebody that committed any old crime and within the last year served a year or more?
Yes.
Any old crime?
If they served more than 1 year in prison.
Okay. So,
It does not distinguish.
so further back here,
Can I just add a point of clarification? So in the state of Maine, any class A, B, or C crime is punishable by more than 364 days in jail, meaning a year or more. So any felony crime is punishable by a year or more. Misdemeanor crimes are punishable by up to 364 days. So I think the differentiation is a felony crime versus a misdemeanor crime.
yeah, that was in part of my notes. Like, would it be simpler to just say if you've been convicted of a felony within the last 5 years or served time for that felony?
But by definition, I think that does that, because it puts it over that 364-day threshold.
Okay,
You can't get a year for a misdemeanor. So therefore, it defines it as a felony, without using the word felony.
okay. So on page 3, H and I, is this basically a background check that people have to submit to? Complete record of the applicant with respect to any disqualifying criminal conviction or a statement by the applicant that no such conviction exists. Or I, an appropriate form of statement over the signature of the applicant, giving all persons in governmental agencies having information relevant to the above items and permission to release the same to clerk. Is that submitting to a background check before you get a permit or a license? Or not? Or is it just a paper that says, I committed no crime, love me?
I would say it'd be a box you check, right? I mean, we'd have a form that you would check a box, correct? If you have not done that, essentially that would be all you would need, I would think.
Yeah.
I would say it's
Okay.
not a background check, it's you telling us you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Moody, sorry.
Yeah. I would just say that make sure you use caution when you start stepping on people's civil rights, even though they have, somebody's committed a crime. Once they've served their time, you know, you're gonna get some challenge. You could get some challenges out of that. Because that person has done his time for whatever they did. So be careful of not penalizing that person because he has a history.
I would not want a sex offender in a food truck at Madison Anson Days serving children in our town.
I agree
They
with
served their time.
I agree with you 100%, but if that person gets an attorney, he could stuff it down your throat.
Well,
That's, I just saying, be careful.
I think the town of Madison is on pretty safe legal grounds in that
I hope
regard.
so, I hope so.
This was reviewed by the town's council, am I correct?
I do not know that.
I thought that was done.
I'm not familiar, I did not forward it to the town attorney.
Denise, I think some portions of this you should get advice.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do now is we're gonna stop and we're gonna send this back to the planning board and we're gonna ask them to invite Lisa or the person that is there to come back and talk about it. We can take this up at the next town meeting, so this won't be one for now. I mean, I think we need to, I think we have so many questions, we have to do that. And I think Mr. Moody's probably right, we should get the attorney to check it over. Yes.
I don't know if this has already been covered on it, I know it's been discussed in a couple meetings, other provisions in this that mandate that the vendor has to have permission from the landowner. I own property downtown that a lot of people are under the presumption that it's public property and it's not, and I would be upset if I came, on a Saturday morning and there was somebody set up with a vendor car in my parking lot. There might be some sort of lease.
I would say there should be, yes.
Written permission or something.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna put this away and table it, and Lisa can ask the rest of her questions to the planning board, and they can come up with.
That would be a better use of your time, yes.
That'll be better use of yours too, so they have more knowledge of that than I do. All right, so we're gonna close the public hearing, and we're gonna open our second public hearing on the site review ordinance 484. All right, Mrs. Town Manager.
So there is, the site review ordinance is 47 pages long, so I asked for a summary of what specific changes may have been made, and
We just focus on the town manager for a second.
okay. So the site review ordinance was, from the planning board perspective, it needed to be reviewed and it needed to be edited for a number of reasons, and I'm gonna let the planning board people speak to those specific reasons why it came up as needing these changes. But the summaries, I think you all have a copy of the summary of the edits, as opposed to the, and you may have a copy of the full 47 page.
That was the last one. That was the last one.
So Jeff or Melanie,
I can give kind of an overview. This kind of came about, I believe, the planning board can correct me if I'm wrong. Generally, it was a lot of administrative changes that brought about the review of the site review ordinance, just some general things that the planning board had noticed while reviewing site review applications. Overall, general structural updates were kind of improved clarity in formatting and organizational applicability and administrative changes. The big change was refine the definition of which projects are subject to site plan review, notably non-residential buildings over 3,000 square feet or 35 feet in height are now going to be reviewed under site plan review. Conversion expansions beyond certain thresholds, non-residential uses over half an acre, and impervious surfaces of 10,000 square feet or more. There are clear exemptions for single or two-family dwellings and timber harvesting or agricultural activities and minor home occupations. There's also added language for joint municipal review, similar to what we do already for subdivision, and this is for specifically the upcoming kind of Durago engineering application for the water district. Application and review process?
Sewer district.
Sewer district, thank you. More detailed multi-stage application process, pre-application with the planning board. I will now be reviewing, or the planner position will now be reviewing pre-application to kind of streamline the application process and kind of formalizing application review with the public hearing, making that more streamlined. Defined criteria for completeness with timeline for processing, and public hearing procedures and notice requirements were a little bit more enhanced and clarified. Revisions and appeals. We added distinction between minor and major revisions to make that clearer, allowing the CEO or the code enforcement officer to approve minor changes. Clarified the appeals process to the Board of Appeals and Superior Court if needed. And the review standards, we added criteria for stormwater runoff into the municipal system, added criteria for pedestrian and sidewalk standards, and added criteria for snow storage. We also added in the new sign ordinance, which was approved last year, replaced that with the old one. And post-approval activities, we noticed that the wording for post-approval activities was kind of vague, so we added limitations of approval section and added incorporation of approved plan section for as-bills. So that's kind of the, it's 40 pages, so no long.
All right, any questions? Anybody have any comments?
I have
Mr. Road Commissioner.
Snow storage, what are you classifying as snow storage?
Let me find it, sorry, give me a second. That was- I think we essentially, what we did was if it was a certain level project, we clarified that they had to think where they were gonna put snow storage on the property.
If it was a building that was under construction?
If they were developing a property and it was large enough and they were creating a big enough parking lot, they had to think about snow storage, where they were gonna put it.
one question in bullet point 2, minor home occupations.
So essentially, with this review, because 3,000 square feet is kind of small, if people were going to be putting a home occupation in their property, we put some exemptions in there for that, that they
Oh, you
would
mean like
have
a
to.
home-based business?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed
you're
that,
good.
and I was thinking renovations.
Okay, any other comments? All right, seeing none, close the public hearing. We'll look for a motion from the board to take the site review, revised site review ordinance, chapter 484 to town meeting for approval.
I'll make a motion that we take the site review ordinance, chapter 484, to town meeting for approval.
Second.
We have a second. All right, we have a motion and a second to take the revised site review ordinance, chapter 484 to town meeting for approval. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, old business, restructure finance officer position. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Jeff. You're not paying attention.
He's reading.
Restructure finance officer position.
So, we were, at the last select board meeting, I was concerned that there was, thank you, that the position was overwhelming for any one person. So, I asked to meet with Tammy Carrier and Sally Dwyer and Kathy Estes to just kind of go over the job description and affirm or remove specific items that were in the job description. And we basically changed somewhere along the line, it had gone from being a finance officer position to being a finance director. And that was not how it was intended to be. So we reclassified it, finance officer. They have bookkeeping responsibilities, record keeping for the accounting and the finance aspect of it, but also bookkeeping, record keeping for human resources parts of it, which are those parts that, like onboarding, when you get a new employee, you have to sit down and go over insurance documents, personnel policy and things like that. Those things remain in here. We added that it was not explicitly in here, so we added that the finance officer would assist with those onboarding pieces. We also added that they, under desirable experience and training, instead of just high school diploma, we said high school diploma or equivalent, and that they must adhere to confidentiality requirements because that position is a confidential position. So beyond that, I think everything else stands as is, and if the select board is good with it, we are ready to put this out to look for candidates to fill the position.
All right.
Jamie, Kathy, or Sally, have any comments, anything you need to add? Everybody was happy with it? Okay. All right. Looking for a motion to accept the job description for the finance officer, Snooty.
I haven't seen it yet,
It should have been in your folder. It wasn't in your folder?
not that I know of.
You didn't get one yet? I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Al,
Yeah.
Denise, has there been any thought, as far as this job and job description goes, and this person is gonna be handling all of our town money, any thought of a background check on maybe?
We do background checks on every employee for the town.
What does that consist of, please?
We go through Maine Municipal Association, and they run criminal history, and they run, I don't have it memorized what all they run, but there is definitely something that we, as a finance position, we could do additional research on, criminal records, insurance bonding, things like that.
Is that in this?
Not in the job description, it would not be.
Ron, just to clarify, the finance officer doesn't actually ever touch any physical money. The treasurer does that,
Oh,
which is me.
I know that,
But it's just the budgetary system.
I know that, but you're still dealing with the town's dollars and cents.
Right. Every employee is background.
Okay, all right.
All right. Any other questions? Looking for a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the new job description for the finance officer.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to accept the new job description for the finance officer. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carried. All right, number 2, application fee for outpatient substance disorder treatment programs. That would be the planning board again, or is that you?
No, the select board sets all the fees,
What do we recommend?
and there, Jeff Drew and I have been reaching out to other facilities to find out what their, and municipalities to find out what their fee structure was in regard to the Rumford, the Bangor, and the Waterville facilities in particular. And none of them had a fee structure that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but it was, they didn't have licensing fees for those facilities in those areas.
That is correct, because they were already medical facilities that they acquired.
So, I think it's pretty wide open. The application is with Jeff to be finally approved under code enforcement. But I would recommend an application fee of $250 for this.
Do you agree with that, Jeff?
The town, like the town of Anson, they have a $1,500 fee for a, like a medical marijuana store. That's definitely not what this is. But you could actually go that high if you wanted. That might be a little excessive, but
What kind of, what is the work going to be entailed for you to work on a project?
for this project, for the
But overall, for any type of
Methanol.
project that we're gonna, along this line, if we have more than one or,
a site review plan is $250. Licensing on the top of that, because it would have to go before the planning board for site review. that would make it up to $500. You know, there'd be fees for, plumbing fees, because they're gonna have to add bathrooms, if not, you know, remodeling fees, things of that nature, and that's by size. So there would be other fees other than, like Denise said, the $250 for licensing, and then site review. So it could be up around $700.
With this 250 that we have.
Right.
Talking about adding. Okay. All right, who would like to make a motion? For that fee or more, I don't, certainly not less.
I have a question.
Sorry,
Can I ask a question?
yes, Mike.
What is the charge to Madison Health Center? Is this an annual fee, or is this a one-time fee?
One time.
It's a one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee.
So if someone wanted to come in and open a practice, would we charge them? Because
This,
this is a, I
This
mean,
is a practice.
it's a health practice. I mean, don't want it, but
I'm not sure. If it's, I think, is it beyond just the $10 license?
They'd be only, so Madison Health Center was coming in today, they would have the $250 you just talked about, plus some sort of $10 licensing fee, and that would be it.
Correct.
now, I don't want it.
So do we wanna add to that, or do we want to leave it in the hands of the planning board and their fees?
The town clerk does a $10 licensing fee, doing
For business.
a business fee.
Okay, so $260 could start Madison Health Center, if we were talking about that today. So we want this to cost $510?
You're the ones that set the fee.
I'll make that a motion,
But 250?
pardon,
250?
plus that 10, no.
Well, the 10 doesn't have to be set,
The 10's already
because
set.
that's
Oh,
already,
okay,
that's
yes,
already a
two-
thing.
250.
The 200 for the planning board is already there.
Yeah, all right,
And that 10, so
Right.
you're just gonna set it at $250.
that's right.
All right, we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set the,
I got a question.
I'm gonna state this first though. The application fee for outpatient substance disorder treatment programs at $250.
My question, and it dovetails what you said, if we have somebody that comes in town to open a practice, is that gonna fall under that for them?
But it's not a substance abuse disorder treatment program. It's a medical
Is
practice.
this regulated from that, or is this
This would
gonna
be,
go towards somebody that's opening a clinic?
no, this would be regulated strictly by, chapter 170 in the ordinance. It's
So-
specific to
Substance
outpatient
use?
substance use disorder treatment programs.
Not for like a dental clinic or
What about A&E?
AA.
If there's I think there's a section in the ordinance that exempts AA.
All right, seeing no other questions.
Wait a minute.
Oh, we have another one, yes.
I do have a question. So I do the $10 fee for every business that comes to Madison that's new. So if we're charging this fee, would this person go to the code enforcement officer first? And then when it was time and they were ready to pay the $250 fee, before I issue the $10 business license, would I then have to collect the $250 first before collecting the $10 fee? I just wanna make sure I have that clear, so I'm not taking the $10 fee first.
I would say that you would he would collect the $250 first, and then you would do the $10, because the state, at some point, they're gonna wanna see that they paid that $10 licensing fee too, before they finish with their licensing part. That's usually how that works, but.
I just wanted to clarify that, so.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
And at that point, Jeff would probably send, my assumption is you would send them to her to pay, to get that $10. That's usually.
All right, number 3, Madison Anson ATV Club Municipal Grant Assistance Request. We made some progress.
Yes, so Jeff Ireland was able to get copies of the last 2 years, 23 and 24 grants that were put in by Tammy in Anson. And I think you were gonna meet with somebody in the Anson Select Board or something.
I've been in telephone discussions with Arnold Luce, first selectman. I was unfortunately unable to make the meeting that they had this Monday or Tuesday, and it wasn't apparently on the agenda anyway, but I did speak with him verbally by phone. What the dream, I guess, is that we have some assistance basically with the administration of the grant from the town of Madison. He has vocalized that the town of Anson is willing to, I haven't got an actual number commitment, but is willing to help with at least part of our matching funds. It's a 90-10 grant. We have to, the state pays 90%, we have to move 10% matching funds, and it's filtered through the town, basically. So our contractor sends the invoices to the administrator, being the town pays it, submits the bill to the state reimburses, along with, provided it's approved work. We also have a tremendous amount of work that we're gonna need to do with just mainly physical labor, and the state allows us to have in-kind work for the match as well, so there's not gonna be a problem with the match. The problem at this point is between the weather and my schedule and contracting schedules, it's been tough to get a contractor in the woods to look at this to get our estimates done. I'm meeting with 2 contractors on Monday. It looks like I'll only hope it not being a complete washout with rain. But I'm meeting with 2 contractors Monday, one at 8 o'clock and one at 9:30. And one at 8 o'clock is very familiar with the trail and has worked on it in the past. That would be Country Boys Construction out of Anson. And the other contractor is Ron's grading out of Fairfield, and he's not been on that section. I'm bringing him over the side-by-side so that he can get some pictures and take some measurements. And he's predominantly a grading contractor. There are some other smaller projects that we'd like to roll up. That we've got a couple of culverts on our older trail system. That's all, you know, I'm gonna guess sub $3,000 projects, that stuff. The larger part of the project is gonna be grading the rail bed. It was a struggle to get clarification from the state as to what their expectation of me was to provide for this rail bed. So many of you have probably seen the work that's being done south of Madison. Blissfully, it was explained to me that I am not expected to cover our 18 miles of trail with blue crusher dust at $27 a yard. They want us to grade it, bring in 2-inch minus gravel where appropriate, and improve the ditch work and make sure there's no culverts that collapse and work for water problems, basically. So it's all best management practices. Water management is 99% of what we're doing. So. And improving the wear surface, because the trail does get pounded with the equipment that's on it, so. Excuse me, I'm sorry, dust mitigation also, we've been working with that as well. Anson, both the road commissioner and the first selectman have indicated that they are willing to donate at least a portion of the mag flow, which is comparable to calcium for dust mitigation, but they will invoice us for the use of their employees and the trucks to apply the material.
At the last meeting, I asked the town manager if we had the capability to do this, and she indicated that we could. So, as far as the town of Madison, we're not looking at any cost for us. And that's
the only cost,
all in kind.
all the costs will be reimbursed through the invoicing to the state. So, contractors will pass me a bill. I will bring it to the town office, the town will pay it, and then we'll submit it to the state. The state will reimburse us, and they're on about a 30-day cycle for reimbursement.
They do a great job reimbursing.
They do.
Alright, so I guess we need a,
The 10% matching is, it can be made up of in-kind labor or donations, and I think Jeff said that he's got plenty of manual labor that needs to be done that can be billed out as the in-kind.
We actually have worksheets that we put people's names on, they have to sign, say they worked this many hours, and if they donated any equipment, they don't need to pick up or dump truck or loader or whatever, it's all billed out at the main Department of Transportation sets those fees, is what we invoice that stuff for.
alright, so we need a motion to have the town of Madison pick up the
Grant
village
administration.
grant administration for the ATV Club Municipal Grant.
So moved.
I have a question.
I will in a minute. Do I have a
I'll
second?
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second for the town of Madison to pick up the, help me again.
Grant administration.
Grant administration, get it right, for the ATV Club municipal grant
Can I ask a question?
first.
Okay, so is this gonna be for like a limited time, or is this gonna be like a continuous, you're gonna be
Well,
continuing to have
we
grants?
may, come back to you next year if we're successful and everybody's comfortable with it. I think that the prognosis for the rail bed, particularly the Kenneth Valley Trail, the rail bed, is that it's gonna take some additional work over the years. We're taking small bites, so may come back to you next year. I mean, you're not committing to anything for anything other than the 2025 season. I'm not sure if that's what you're
Okay,
saying.
that's what I'm, yes, okay, that's what we're committing to, okay, yeah. Okay.
And then what if the state doesn't pay their commitment?
Well, the work has to be, I have to get estimates, so there's an application process, which I have to give pretty detailed estimates of what we're going to do. And the state is going to approve the work. I mean, they have the funding set aside. Primarily comes from ATV registration money. The state approves the work or disapproves the work and says you need to change this. So the application deadline is looming, it's May 30th. The application, rather than hand carry it to the office in Augusta, they have a couple weeks that they can review it and say, this project looks good, this project looks good, we don't want to do this or whatever. But at that point, they're committed to paying it. So, and again, that's money that's not coming out of the general fund. That's money that's coming from money that's already earmarked through ATV registration money.
Right, but Madison's paying it first.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that is correct.
Yes.
What was the total amount of the grant?
We haven't got our estimates in yet. That's coming Monday. Typically, they cap it at between $120,000 and $120,000. I don't think we're gonna need anywhere near that much this round. And this is something that kind of came to me unexpected. Historically, my background dates 20 years with ATV club management. Historically, the last couple of years were managed by Anson, and before that, the state just said, okay, you guys need to find a contractor, grade the rail bed, and we'll write them a check. And now they've decided they want everything under the auspices of the municipal grant. We have projects that we're planning for the 2026 season that are going to improve the rail bed further, that I'm going to start working on in August and September as far as collecting the data, so we're not doing this this late in the game next year.
Is that state funded or federally funded?
This is all state funded. There are instances where the purchase of the rail bed, the building of the trail was predominantly federal funded. It was through an RTP grant. The ongoing maintenance and the improvements are typically done through state grant.
So if Anthony's coming up with all this in-kind work, why don't they wanna just simply?
Administer it?
Yeah.
I don't think they have the staff. They don't have the people in the office, because of current events happening over there. They don't have anybody that has the ability to manage it.
One?
Do we have the liquidity to do that? We're carrying the load for 30 days. I have no problem carrying it as long as the town has the reason. I have 120 grand. If they come in and do all that work in the month of July, you gotta pay the bill. And you got a 30-day return from the state. Does the town have the liquidity to do that without going into a line of credit?
Yes,
What budget would we pay that under?
what's that?
How would you pay it? What budget line?
It would be in a state grant line.
But you need the cash, Denise. Where's our cash coming from? It's not in a budget.
I hear what you're saying. All right, let me work on that.
And my whole thing was, is the state actually gonna pay it? If we shell out this money, they say, well, they don't want to, because they don't have the funds, then we're out the 120-something grand in the town. So,
Well, I do think this type of, I'm not questioning that, I'm questioning where we're gonna get the
we're
funds.
gonna get it
But
anyway.
I believe that the money is in an account for the ATV from their dues and fees and all the things that they pay. The same thing with snowmobile club.
Right.
Their registration fees all go back to the snowmobile club. So, I mean, I think it's there for them. I think the rail bed from Oakland to North Hanson has been a priority of at least your organization and probably more.
people in the state level said it's, you know, it's kind of their showcase. But
And we need to do
Right,
it,
do-
don't get me wrong, we need to do it, we just need a line in the budget that we funded to front the cash.
Boy, that, oh. I think we need some time to figure that one out. Are you in agreement, Mrs. Town Manager?
I'm looking right now, I think that,
Does that have to be approved by the town meeting for us to be able to do that?
120, yeah.
I mean, does that have to be approved by town meeting to be able to do that? I mean, do we need to make that a warrant article?
Because it's not our grant money. It's not-
Do you have the,
Yes.
do you have the 1% rule in your budget where you can shift funds like other towns have, where you would fall under that limit
We
within your?
have 25,000.
25,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, well, that, give you 25 of it,
Yeah.
but,
well, but the thing is, if it's, what would happen is, once the bill gets paid, it would reduce the expense. So it would get put in as an expense going out, and then when the money comes in, it would offset that expense, so it would drop it back down to 0 on that line.
right, but you can't float money through accounts, you have to have it accounted for in a line item.
I get that.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, it's gotta be earmarked.
You can't zero it either.
Jeff, this is due the end of this month.
the application is due May 30th. The work the work needs to be finished before the end of the season. There's
Yes.
nothing that says that, I mean, really, it's, I mean, really what we, the time of the essence thing is really what it needs is a commitment to, you know, whether you guys have to manipulate something to make that happen legitimately, could, I mean, if there's a high level of confidence that's able to happen, and I don't know, if I'm speaking of attorney.
I don't know how did Nansen do it, do you know how they did it?
Right, I can say.
Well, we've just invoiced incrementally, so I mean,
But if they're paying it out, they must be paying it out from a budget line.
Right.
that, I don't have that specific information. I know the municipal grant system it's a new thing to the town of Madison, and it's a new thing to me, but it's been in existence for 26 or 27 years. I could get probably more answers. I have people in Augusta that I could lean on that could.
How we do that, how we do it, if we gotta go to, I mean, if we gotta put it in the town meeting warrant, I mean, we're getting short on that.
Right.
That also, so that's gonna be something that we have to, you'd have to raise it through taxes in order to, and it comes back as a revenue, correct, Amy?
Yes. But I was in a meeting today at Northern Outdoors with Somerset County Economic Development Company. And we actually had discussions on building these trails, and it's a priority of Somerset County Economic Development. And Christian we have money in our accounts, Somerset does, I'm on that board. They may be able to float that 120 is not a lot with regards to our revolving loan fund. Christian may be able to float that for you.
My understanding was that the county, and I may have misread this or may have been mistold, but the county's priority was on unorganized territory.
But you're just having Christian administer the grant. So he could administer your grant for you and prepay the bills as long as it's coming back in. It's possible that it could help.
It doesn't have to be through a municipality.
It has to be, well, it has to be through a county or a municipality.
Christian may be able to help, but I still think we need to facilitate it. I agree with what he's doing, we need to help him.
I agree 100%, but I don't know how we're gonna help with 125,000 unless we can get it into the.
I think what he's saying is there's a revolving funds available through the county, and the county,
The county could administer it, taking it off the plate of Madison, if Christian has the availability, and he could run it through our board very quickly on a straw vote through email,
Okay.
which we actually discussed today, trying to do things like
Is
this.
that something you can lead the way on?
But he's only got 2 weeks, that's the hard part.
Can you put me in touch with that person?
Christian Savage, yeah, he's at the county, he's Somerset County Economic Development Coordinator. Christian Savage.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We want to pull those back until we can meet again. We meet in 2 weeks. Is that acceptable?
what's the date of the next meeting?
29th. 2 weeks from tonight.
Which means I'm hand carrying applications for Augusta, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And so, between you and Dawn and, we gotta have these meetings in East Madison. We gotta have contact information before, we gotta have more than one. I don't have to worry about it. All right, let's move on. Simple Twist Cannabis Company, follow-up information.
Yes, so, since the last meeting, I have had an opportunity to speak with, the proprietor of Simple Twist and attempt to work with him to make sure that he gets his state license, resolved. And so, the code enforcement officer gave him a cease and desist letter. We gave him till the end of May to get his license resolved. So at the end of May, if he doesn't have his state license issue taken care of, and he's not in a position where he can get his state caregiver license, then we will proceed to the next step, which is law enforcement and shutting his door.
Dawn. Dawn.
Thank you. We gave him until the end of May. Does the cease and desist, is that an immediate action? Does it cease and desist? So how did he get, he's an unlicensed, he doesn't have a license with the state, so how's he paying taxes on the marijuana? Because he doesn't have a number to send it to the state.
He was licensed, and his license expired, and he is working to try to get that renewal done. He is in compliance with Maine Revenue Services, so he's paying his taxes.
Okay.
He's licensed through the Secretary of State's office as a business. So when he called and said that there was some communication gap between him and the state, I offered to help him find the means to breach that gap so that he could get the information that they were looking for, because he didn't know what it was.
And is it a change of ownership or is it a loss of license? Because I was told, we at the planning board were told it's a change of ownership.
No, because he and the other person owned it together, and the other person walked away. So, I don't know, do you call that a change of ownership?
Yeah. It's getting retitled.
It is, it has to be retitled to
So,
a single
So
proprietor.
he shouldn't be in business at all, according to our
Okay,
ordinance.
let's make sure we're waiting.
Sorry.
Remember me? Not much longer, but I'm still here.
So,
Who are you?
So we have a different owner?
no, Daniel Safranek is the owner and was the owner with a partner. The partner walked away. So he is still the owner of the business.
I agree, but the state sets that parameter on how that business is operating, and they're making him relicense as an individual, not as a joint venture with a partner. And based on our ordinance, which we were asked to write again, we don't want to write these ordinances PS, so stop sending them, but it's a change of ownership, and we're going down to 3, the town voted to go to 3 medical use marijuana things. I don't know where, I'm questioning, and I'd like to know where the authorities come in to, if our CEO has to enforce these ordinances, and I get Denise is in a tough place because we're trying to promote business too. I appreciate what you're doing. It's not a chastisation, but we also have to follow the ordinances that we're asked to write, which is a complete pain in the can. So it appears we have a conflict going on here, and how do we balance that? And I don't think we balance it by allowing the continuation of an operation that isn't duly licensed with the state, and we're supposed to be going down to 3, and it's changing ownership.
So if I may, the issue with his state license is not, it has nothing to do with a change in ownership. It was, he did not provide all the documents that they were looking for. He didn't understand what they were looking for, I don't know. He's had a caregiver license since 2018, 17, whatever it was. So in talking with the town attorney about this and doing the cease and desist order, we did get some legal advice to say, you know, give him time to comply. So, the difficult part comes in that the enforcement action is vague at best in terms of, not necessarily in terms of the ordinance, but in terms of the state not having the enforcement authority that we anticipated that they would have. They came to us and said he doesn't have his state license, and we need to get that resolved.
Why didn't they just send, why didn't they shut them down?
Right.
I don't understand that.
Because-
So they put us in a very hard spot.
They did.
They tried.
What's up?
Can I speak?
Robert, yes.
First of all, his license expired on July 9th of '24. So this is not something that just happened. It was just brought to our attention not too long ago, but he's been out of compliance since last year. As Don said, he has to have, they have to change the name on the building, so on the business rather, so he has to have a new license. Therefore, that goes against our ordinance that says we have to, he can stay in business because it's a new business. So what are we writing ordinances for if we're not following them? From my understanding, this comes back on the CEO's license if something goes awry. He was asked to submit a cease and desist order, and then we're going back and saying, no, don't worry about it. Forget the ordinance, forget the cease and desist order, forget the license of our code enforcement officer.
I think the state has put us in that spot though.
Regardless.
They asked us to try to help.
Well,
I mean,
John?
it's a,
John?
So I think I have a pretty good opinion on this. And like she said, it was July 9th of last year where they haven't been in compliance. Even if they change their name, they're still not gonna be in compliance by the order that we put in place. And I think you guys did a really good job making a move when you did. I was wondering what, I think it should have happened a lot earlier than it did, but we're here now. So here's what I think's gonna happen. The cease and desist should take effect immediately. If he's not in compliance, then obviously the next step's gonna happen. But then, even at that point, here's what we have to think about. Say they shut their doors and they're acting like they're not selling marijuana. That there's a lot of people that know they exist there. As long as they don't have a sign that's out front saying that we're selling plants of weed, they're gonna be able to have everybody filter through there, and they can just pretend like they're smoking weed in their backyard. And that in and of itself is going to be legal for them to do. We're not gonna be able to put a stop to that. So the business is already there, but we have to make them be in compliance to what we have in place already. And the state did put us in a really bad position, but now we have to interject our authority as the town of Madison and let them know that they really can't be there per what the people of Madison requested. But now keep in mind, we're not gonna be able to stop the flow of traffic going in there. As long as they take their signs down and they don't advertise as they're selling marijuana.
That's a state thing though, right?
That's a state, that's a.
Control that?
Right, that's a state, that's the regulation of legalities of marijuana. Nobody can tell them who they can have smoking weed in their backyard. But now, understanding that a lot of people know they're there, they have a lot of patrons that go in and out of there. So he's just gonna tell everybody, once we hopefully can shut their doors in the sense of sales, he's just gonna tell everybody, hey man, I can't have my signs out front, but you know, we're still open for business.
So who,
And then that's gonna open up another can to where.
so who administers that? The sheriff's office?
That's not a problem.
That's not our problem, okay.
All right.
Yes, Rich, you got a question?
yeah, it's basically, it's being answered, yeah.
I guess I'm waking up to something I haven't been aware of. And I sure wasn't aware of how long they haven't been in compliance. Now, what Mr. Martin is saying here, that's not our problem, that's gonna be a state problem.
Right.
You know, we haven't, we have the ordinance as far as the licenses go. And I don't think in that ordinance there's a grace period, as far as I know.
No, sir.
Is there?
No.
So automatically they're in violation, and I don't know why we haven't yanked that license already.
They don't have a
They don't have
license.
a license.
They don't even have a
Well,
license.
Stand, close them.
yes,
You should have put a lock on the door.
that's right. Now it's in your hands to go down there and close the door.
So do we wanna make a motion to that?
I'll do that.
Mr. Bean?
Can you expound on what a town attorney said,
Yeah.
please?
Let me see if I can find his email.
I just wanna make sure we're lined up.
I just don't wanna make an exception and set a precedent.
And I get that. While you're looking for that, can I ask you a question now?
Sure.
I don't know the laws. How do you stop? Would never do it, but say I was selling marijuana out of my house without a license. How does that get? So that guy can legally, I could pull into that guy's.
Illegal.
Illegal.
That's easy, yeah.
So then the sheriff has gotta catch that sale, not just smoking, but the money,
Right, it would be, yeah.
the money
It would
going
be
back
one
and
of those Things
forth.
like any other illegal drug.
It would essentially be trafficking.
Okay,
Trafficking. Okay, okay, thank you.
So we filed a notice of violation. That was done in April. And the attorney said, we can apply for a temporary restraining order when we file the enforcement action. We'd need to establish that irreparable harm will result from the violation before the alleged violator can be heard personally. The question becomes whether his continuing operation of the medical cannabis retail store without a state or local license will result in immediate loss, injury, or damage. In other words, give him time to fix it.
I don't get that.
I don't agree with that.
Hold on, you wanna say something, put your hand up, please. Jeff?
I understand there's a situation with the state license, and I get that. From a business license perspective, for operating in the town of Madison, as a business owner, I mean, and I'm not selling marijuana, but you're saying that it's a new business in the eyes of the state as it relates to licensing, but is it a new business in the eyes of the town if he changes his ownership status? If I take on a partner at my business, I've been in business for 30 years, and if I take on a partner at my business, am I now a new business?
Well, the problem is with this type of business, in the new ordinance that came out, we have tried to reduce it to 3 of these in town. There are 5 at the present time.
I
So when one goes out, we don't give another license away. And when 2 more go out, or 3 go out, you could apply again for that 3rd license.
I understand that, but it seems, and it's just my impression that we're railroading him out of business because we're shortcoming in the state, the way the state applies their paperwork, is what it seems to me. And we are supposed to be, we're certified business friendly, and not everybody believes the medical marijuana thing, I get it. But it seems to me that sets a little bit of a precedent if we're blocking his doors. I mean, as a business person, again, I understand it's a different business, but I don't know, I just have some reservations.
I do think that if, if John is correct, from 24 to now, I mean, we're talking a year of time went by. I mean, I would have thought that he would have taken care of business and got your license in order in that period of time. I mean, I can't imagine not, Robert?
2 things on that. From my understanding, OCP tried to go in there and do something about it, that's state level. He threw him off the property. That's number 1. Number 2, why is there a planning board? Why are we doing these ordinances if we're not going to enforce them? Follow them?
Why?
I don't understand, why are we here? It's.
Rich?
The town voted for it, so, I mean.
The town did vote for it, yes. I mean, so, I don't.
What would we be saying if we
I agree.
we made this ordinance, the town voted for it and it was in favor of it, and then we just go around and say, well, no, even though this guy lost his license back in July of last year, we're letting him slide because, you know, we don't care about your vote.
Moody? Yeah. Like I said, I don't wanna set a precedence, and I don't think there's any grace periods, and beyond that, I already made a motion, and whether it's gonna be second or not, I don't know. But I don't think the license should continue. It's at a year.
Well, it's not a license, it's our ordinance.
Well,
That's right.
he's in
Okay, so
violation.
He's in violation.
We have a motion by
If we do this with one, we, you know, then we're gonna have all kinds of other people coming in here and saying, you did this for this, how come you're not doing it for me?
Alright, so we have a motion. Anybody want to second that motion? Any second the motion?
I'll second it.
Alright. Alright, so any other questions, any other comments? What we're asking in this motion is that we immediately enforce the planning boards, or the town ordinance, not the planning board, the town ordinance for this type of business.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question. Denise, you said that this gentleman, you've already told him that he has until the end of the month to do whatever it is he needs to do.
Yes, but if I don't have the authority to give that extension to him, then I'm gonna walk that back.
The only thing that concerns me is this gentleman is a little bit of a firecracker. I would be very, very worried about ramifications once this happens. I think we should shut him down, no question in my mind at all. And if we had known about it before, we would have, or should have. But this guy scares me a little bit. And the only reason I say that is I've heard it. I've not.
We have people
not
to take care of that,
witnessed it.
Sal.
I know that, but we have,
ma'am?
there are a lot of crazy.
Yes, I think it's like we seem to keep coming back, if we pass an ordinance that we wanna go down to 3, and we have a chance that this gets closed forever, should we not look at it like that? So that we reduce, instead of saying, no, we're gonna stay at 5?
I think we base this upon his inability to get the license.
Right.
Not necessarily that we're gonna cut down to 3, but
So, but
So he
how
doesn't
do
have
we-
that.
So how do we reduce that? What is the protocol?
I think we do it by
Attrition.
by the action that's gonna happen. Right, you do it by the action that's gonna happen, but you don't do it to get to 3, you do it because he didn't get his license renewed.
Right, I understand that, and that's what I'm saying,
Yep.
so if that is the case, then we should shut him down if he doesn't have a license.
Yeah, if he doesn't have a license, yes.
Yes,
agree.
I,
Yes, John.
So, I agree with you, Mr. Moody, 100%, it should have been shut down like right away. I do have a question, was there any communication with him from last year, June 9th, to this ordinance, or this, letter that you sent to him?
We gave him the letter in April, within days of being notified by the state that his license had not been renewed.
April of this
So,
year, correct?
April of this year, that's when we found out about it. Now, let me just say, in addition to that, the attorney said, when we sent him the notice of violation, we have to give him 30 days to comply. That date was April
22nd, I think it was.
I got 18.
18th.
18th.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So, you know, we still have like 3 days.
Don?
I 100% agree with Mr. Moody. However, in the interest of legality and protecting ourselves, and I don't know how the conversation went, but I think we need to trust whatever you say, Denise. If you've committed the town to the 30th, A, please don't do that in the future, but B, it's okay. But we can't expose ourselves. If she's made a commitment on behalf of the town, we have to honor that.
She doesn't have that right.
That's another question.
All right. If you're gonna ask a question, put it through here, and that's the last time I'm gonna say it.
I agree we should shut it down, but if we've made a commitment, now we're opening ourselves up for that.
I believe we have this 30-day thing from the day that we issued, you issued him something, when was that?
I believe it was the 18th, somewhere around the 18th.
18th
Of April.
Of April.
So the 18th of May.
But did she verbally tell him
I
the
don't know.
30th?
Did you verbally say that at the end of the month?
I did.
Then you're right. stinks, but we've gone on the record.
Then maybe I'll change.
I'll withdraw my second.
There you go. I'll withdraw mine. Set this in motion on the 30th.
Okay, have a second? Alright, so motion and a second to enforce the rule on the 30th of May. Alright, and that's the last day, so if it isn't then it's over. Alright, everybody got that, right? It's over. Okay, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Alright, moving on. Meter land purchase request. Sale of small section of town-owned property on East Holton Street to abutters Pam and Randy Meter to accommodate the driveway to their property originally discussed on December 9, 2024.
So this is the section that they're looking at, this dotted line, this triangle, and they're willing to pay the town $1,000 for it. And basically what it does is it gives them ownership of their driveway.
This is on East Holton Street, we discussed this.
Couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
Alright, can we have a motion? To sell that,
For $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to sell to the Meters the property on East Holton Street, if that was their property, for $1,000.
Second. Alright, motion and a second, to sell the Meters the property on East Holton Street that abuts their property. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Alright, we have on letter G, we have department head reports, library, fire, recreation, sheriff. We also have one from the highway. Anything you want to add, Jeff?
Yeah, as you see in front of you, we had 27 weather events this winter, and take that times 2, that's most generally about. Many times we go out, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, depending on the storm. 900 tons of salt, along with 2,100 yards of sand and 4,800 gallons of calcium. Everything has been stripped off the trucks and painted and put away for the winter, hopefully. And we've just been doing some maintenance in the garage, getting things taken care of, and getting ready to start on some road work, some ditching, some leftover FEMA work that was, was not finished in the, last fall. And I'm gonna move forward with that stuff. Madison Bridge, they are paving the lane they are working on now, the northbound lane. That will be paved tomorrow. And then they will set over next week to do the same thing on the other side of the bridge, with the paving being done next Friday, weather permitting. And then it will be striped following that at nighttime. And they'll have some, a punch list and some repair work on the finger joints on the Madison side. And then they should be all wrapped up by the 1st of June.
Sweet. Alright. And they're anticipating starting tarring from the lights out to Clouds Corner in July.
I have not heard a start date on that yet. I know the bids have gone out. From what I've been hearing for rumors, July possibly, 1st of August, but that's just rumors.
And the cleanup has gone good?
Cleanup's all done. Yeah, we finished Monday. We're upgrading some dirt roads now. A couple guys have some time off coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
But I do have a question.
Yep.
In my department head meeting last week with the department heads, which 2 of them I've been informed that are no longer going to be department heads, one being finance, which is understandable because we don't have one. But the code enforcement was always a department head in this town, and I don't know why all of a sudden it's not. For me especially, having conversations and meetings with, at our department head meetings in the past with code enforcement was always a good tool for me and
Donnie French, the fire chief, also, not as much, but me. Stuff was brought up in meetings in the past years that I didn't know about and was never told about. Having a code enforcement there at those meetings, those things can be brought up, and I think it's a lot more transparent if the department heads, we have these department heads at these department head meetings. Now, I don't know who made the decision to take these two out of the department heads, but I feel that they should be put back in for more transparency.
I didn't. Town manager, Mrs.
Well,
Estes?
I'll just say, I don't remember the finance officer ever being a department head. I don't. I'm just, you know, they did their own thing, but I don't remember them being a.
Well, Tammy always sat in on department head meetings in years past, finance and HR.
And I know that when Bobby Dunphy, when he was there, I don't think he was considered a department head, but he did go to the meetings. But I don't think he was ever considered a department head person. I don't.
Yeah, the two past, the woman from the Forks there, she was always at the.
Right, they were at the meetings and stuff.
Right, and we've always had discussions, and I would like to see that position bumped up to a department head and put back in there for that purpose. And I don't know who made the decision to take it out of there, but you're not having transparency between all the department heads. And if there's something I don't get told, such as a driveway entrance, or a road entrance, or trees, or whatever the case may be, it's after the fact, and I have to scramble to take care of the problem.
All right, so,
I'll add them.
all right.
Thank you.
All right, living well, anything, Diane?
We're waiting to hear if we got the AARP grant. We're supposed to find out within the next day or so, and I submitted an additional application for the grant, $15,000 matching grant through the county. I submitted that last week. Tim has confirmed that he has received it, and we'll wait to hear on those.
All right, thank you. All right, manager report on expenses, town manager?
We continue to stay just slightly below the anticipated expenditure amount. I think we're at just around 80%, and based on the time of year, it would be 86.5%, so we're slightly below on our expenditures. We may have some that are gonna go over, and I think one of them is the audit, the auditor contract line is gonna go over. In the process of previous finance person, we had a non-attest agreement where Tammy could come in and help do some training, and so that ended up taking up some of that auditor amount.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay, so we have new business FY fiscal year 2024 draft audit and preliminary findings.
So this is starting July 1 of '23 to June 30 of '24. And one of the, just see if I can find it here. One of the comments that was made was that the budget information was not added to the TRIO system at the beginning of the fiscal year in July. And I know when I came in August, we ended up adding the budget information in September or something, but it wasn't initially put in. There were some bank reconciliations that were not done, and most of those have been completed now. And I think that was the most significant part.
that not going into that trio was because we were between people, is that?
I think that was part of it, and I think it was also because Jill didn't know that she was supposed to put it in to trio.
Any questions? And I think we can probably go over this again at the next meeting if we wanna look through it and get all that draft of that.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the auditor to give us the final copy.
All right, any other questions? All right, any citizens' concerns? Yes, Mike?
If we could just circle back to the sheriff's report just for a moment. One thing that didn't make it into this month's report, I think the select board is already aware, but Sheriff Lancaster has authorized implementation of a downtown motor patrol for the town of Madison, starting in June. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that if they weren't
That'll
already.
be Monday to Friday?
Yes, and it will be me. I'm gonna work on my tan.
Maybe I'll come ride with you.
Get a little helmet with the inspector gadget.
Any other citizens' concerns? All right. Yes.
Something I just want to put out there regarding the mobile vendor ordinance is for something for the board to consider before the next meeting. We, as Jeff had mentioned earlier, he said the town is certified business friendly. As of right now, this ordinance is asking for $400,000 of liability insurance from these mobile vendors. But yet, all through the ordinance, it says, can't park here, can't park here. Could the board consider maybe allowing, maybe coming up with an area for these people to park? Like Waterville did, you know, there's quite a few of them popping up, and as long as they're legal and licensed, like maybe, because we were talking at home one night, like maybe somewhere like the stick mill, I don't believe that's town-owned, but some kind of town-owned property, if you're asking for all this insurance from these people, why not have a place for them all to set up? And it might be something for you guys as a board to consider before the next time I come back and ask 6 million more questions.
We'll not be at the next meeting. We'll not have this at the next meeting, so.
So it's just something to consider.
It has to go to town meeting, so it won't be until after the new year, new fiscal year. So
Yeah.
That won't happen before then. So, but yeah, certainly good. If there's anybody that has land that wants to.
She's smart enough to be a road commissioner.
I don't want that job.
Careful, Jeff.
Thanks, Ron. Mr. Moody. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to make everybody aware that the video for the candidate forum is posted online. You can find it both on Channel 11's YouTube channel and their Facebook page and a few other Facebook pages.
Thank you, Randy. Mr. Moody.
Before you finish, I just want to hand these out to find out if there's anybody on the select board that wants to go to the KV-COG Planning Day. It's a General Assembly meeting on June 24th. I'm planning on going, and I didn't know if there was anybody from the select board that wanted to go.
Mr. Moody, any concerns?
No, sir, I vetted them all.
I just have one, if I'm able to make a comment. I want to issue a really big thanks to the planning board. We do appreciate what you do, believe me. I know that your job is not easy. I don't know if it's any harder than this one, but it's pretty difficult, and we do appreciate everything that you guys do for us. So, thank you.
Mr. Bean?
No concerns with Jeff, I want to thank you and your crew, please pass along to them, this one was great.
Yep, I will, I'll let them know Monday morning.
We got 3 Jeffs here, remember.
Alright, I'm good.
Before you adjourn, we have 7 copies of the town warrant and 7 copies of the school warrant that need to be signed by the board. The town clerk reminded me.
We have a motion to adjourn, please.
And just to clarify, where we had the 2 warrant articles that we were unsure of where they were going to be at the end of the meeting, you're receiving the one that's just including the site review, not the one including the mobile vendor.
Alright,
Okay, looking for motion to adjourn. Motion and a second to adjourn, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. 7:58.
It's,
Oh, it's a.
Good,